So, what's the primary purpose of an addiction? Right? Most people don't even stop to consider that question. Most people just think, oh, this guy got into alcohol or he got into heroin and he's just using it now and now it's taken over and he doesn't know, he can't stop. But there's a purpose of the addiction, and it's very important that we understand that. I remember early on in my school time being told by a professor, it's not what the drug does to the individual, it's what the drug does for the individual. It's a really important part to kind of take on. The drug itself it gets people high, it creates those feelings, physical feelings for the individual, but what is it doing for the individual? At the end of the day, what it's doing is it's helping them to cope with unwanted emotions and feelings. What people generally find when they start using substances, the best example that I can use for this is painkillers. So the opiate-based stuff that's all over the news right now, fentanyl. Painkillers are prescribed on a daily basis to people that have gone through operations, that have experienced injuries, and they're given painkillers to cope with the pain that they're experiencing. Not every single person that gets given painkillers ends up addicted to them. Not every single person. Some people can become physically dependent on them, but they're not addicted to them, and we'll talk about that in a little bit too. So what happens though when people use those substances to kill the physical pain is if they're in emotional pain, they start to realize, wow, these get rid of that too. So that's where the cycle starts to kick in. Not only am I using this to cope with the physical pain, but it's also helping me to escape from the emotional pain that I'm experiencing too. And we've all got coping mechanisms. You guys realize that? Every single one of us has coping mechanisms. Really important to understand that. Ways that we cope with life in general. Some people cope with, when they're feeling stressed out, maybe I'm going to go and read. I'm going to go watch a movie. I'm going to go hang out with some friends at the local coffee house and just talk about stuff, talk about how I feel. Those are what I call healthy coping mechanisms, especially when they're done in balance. So, I'm not focusing on that one thing all the time. Every time I feel stressed out, I'm not flying into the gym. I'm not going to work out for 6 hours a day, or I'm not going to lose myself in books after book after book after book. So I'm not interacting with anybody else, right? When it's balanced, when maybe this time I'm reading a book, that time I'm hanging out with friends, I'm going to go and take in a movie. That's a balanced coping mechanism that falls into anybody's lifestyle. Then some are not so healthy, right? Some people turn to alcohol, marijuana, big one that's going to be interesting in the news now with us legalizing marijuana in the next few months. We're going to see how that's going to go. I'm not going to get into that now. That's a little bit of a sticky subject for us to take on this morning. Then you get into some of the more harder substances like heroin. Some people start working all the time to escape from stresses that are happening at home. That's another one that often gets missed. Dad's having a really hard time at work and he's at home and he's spending all of his time at work. Why is he doing that? He's doing that because he can't cope with what happens when he walks through the door. It's really important.